No.
Yes. It's called the Music Studios. It's off Oxford Street.
We need
basically
readers
a
for
room
the
with
prayers
building
after,
practice
don't
rooms in.
we?
Some larger,
Sorry
some
about
smaller.
that, Kevin. That's completely
It was me as well.
It's a bit tatty, but it's completely fine.
It's not the
It just needs somewhere that was central and
Yeah.
seemed easier than being out road churches.
Blame me, say Kevin, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for trying. Thanks. Yeah, it's one of those things. I've done all the I've pretty much done all the folders. I might write the odd thing, but like hopefully everything's there. Like you shouldn't have to add anything in rehearsals. And as far as possible, I've taken out things that we're not doing. I have. Yeah. I rewrote it yesterday. Doesn't mean say it'll be perfect, but like it's better. Yeah.
I'm going with I'm excited for a time we can like properly sit together and curate services, and I know that time will
That'd be nice. That'd be nice. Yeah, I can, and yeah. So we're doing all of Baruch. We're doing and.
Oh, what's that? Went wrong with the sound. Oh.
Sounds a bit like a metronome.
No, that is something different.
We have to concert tonight. I didn't ask you just because I didn't think you really. It's quite late. It's like 9:45.
That was a one-off.
I thought you would want to. I'm just doing it. I mean, you can if you wanted to, but I figured hours drive for you at that time of night would be really great.
Yes.
So
I'm gonna need it.
okay.
But I'll give it in advance, and then Maureen, you can just give it to me back when you come up.
Yes, of course. I hope it's all right. Yeah, it's not something that you could probably do by public transport, even if you wanted to, is it really? Yeah, we're doing a concert first, which is a slightly weird invention. Me and the woman who does me and the woman who does music for Reform, and the guest oud, Sephardic oud player. So we do a concert first, and then the separate services. Yes, so which makes it rather long.
I don't think I do know, but I'm very happy to pick it up like this. Save the post.
I think it's that because
So
I say can't we just have it all one
formally?
Yeah, come on.
So you'll get
committees to agree on what should be the concert.
Yeah. So
I don't have a physical copy. I get an email.
You haven't got a scroll today for various reasons. So Anna will probably do the Hebrew first. She'll probably just have a look see if there's any words or any famous things in the English. Because sometimes there's awkward. So I'm just going to. Yeah, I just got to say, can you some people hear us okay?
No.
Are we muted? Hang on.
Really? Your mother's joining, Mark.
Tim's making a few adjustments. Right. Can you testing? Can you hear me on Zoom?
Really low.
Not really.
We can't hear you on Zoom, Kevin.
Okay, we did Tim's gonna do. Hang on. Yeah, Kevin, try that. Can you hear me okay now on Zoom?
No,
You can hear me enough to say no, but obviously it's faint.
it's very, very faint. Not loud enough on that speaker.
Nobody's ever accused me of being that.
It's better now.
Okay, how is it now, we say?
It's a little bit better.
And there's George. It's lovely to see you, George.
Good to see
You
you.
can hear Anna very well, and I thought we could hear Joseph well, but
Oh, it must be that this microphone that's on.
that's fine.
Yeah, that's good.
Perfect.
Oh, so it must be it's that one. So we need this. We only need one mic. Might as well.
Gone now, though.
Yeah.
So shall I move this one over?
Back now.
Thank you.
So I think we're ready to go. So are we going to get for the... Okay, let me say... Hello. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Just as usual, we want sort of volunteers to do the 3 prayers. Well, obviously, at the moment, the new royal family one, either in the room or on Zoom. First hand up. Don't rush. Can I see you? Okay, well, obviously I know it's a troubled time for the royal family, so... Okay, that's Lindsay. Okay, you've got the copy of the... Okay, we can give you that. Okay, for the community prayer. That's Aoife, I think I saw first. And Israel. That's Alan. Apologies for anyone else who wanted to do a prayer. I did see quite a few hands up. There's been a few... I'm sure you can volunteer people. I mean, we've had Vanya and George put their hand up. Okay, anyone else you might get picked on, beware. And it's got a way of making sure you're keeping up. So no switching off.
Rania and George, I actually have something for you if you're up for it.
Thank you.
On page 108, it goes on for a while. It's the whole alphabet. On page 108 to 110, there's a bit of responsive reading, and I wonder if you can do that together, and maybe we'll also do the responses in the room as well. Does that work for you, George? Oh,
Needs to get his book, I think.
oh, lovely.
Is that 110, Anna?
108.
It goes up to 100. It's all the way from 108
Okay. Okay.
until
That's,
110.
yes, I've got.
Unless we were going to chant all
Okay.
of
Thank.
it. That is a possibility as well.
Thank you.
I guess we won't. The chant 108 to 110. I'm not giving away.
I was not planning to do that.
Good morning. Shabbat Shalom.
They're all in a row.
Well, oh yeah, gosh. All in a row. Because you're all so close to each other, you don't want to be staggered, right? You want to feel each other's presence. Do you know what happened this week? I got Catherine Bohart, who's a comedian, wrote to me on Instagram to invite Tamara and me to go and see her at Live at the Apollo. So we got to go to Live at the Apollo to see all these comedians. It was amazing. I know, it's so rough. That's what it is.
Can you give me the page number
It
again?
is a laugh a minute.
108 to 110, George.
108.
So I wondered, Rania, if you want to do the solid text, and George will respond with you leading us in the italics. Does that work?
It does work for me.
Yes.
Lovely. Lovely stuff. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I'm afraid there's not a lot of comedy today. Actually, I don't have those skills. That's why I watch other people. But we will be starting our Shabbat morning service on page 105. 105.
Could everyone on Zoom mute themselves, if not done already?
אותי מעל ביתך ומכל משכן כבודך ואני אשכח ביתך לפני אדוני עושי הטוב עליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל הטוב עליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל אני תפילתי לך אדוני יחזור אלוהים ברוב חסדך
As we say the prayers of our ancestors, help us, O God, to remember their faith and devotion, their joy and suffering, and make us worthy of our heritage. May the tradition we have received live in us and pass from us to generations we shall never know, enriched by the truth we have found and the good we have done. So may we fulfill our task on earth and receive our blessing. Eternal God, school us in your teaching and make us loyal to your commandments. May we never consent to evil or surrender to temptation or self-contempt. Help us to rise above selfishness and make us responsive to the voice of conscience. Direct our every impulse to your service. Today and every day, may we merit kindness and compassion in your sight and in the sight of all who behold us, and let us know your love. Baruch atah Adonai, gomer chasadim tovim.
I think we might have lost the connection. We're losing it.
Baruch Shama v'haya ha'olam, Baruch hu, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, ha'mechulal b'fi amo, mashubach u'mufo'ah b'lishon chasidav avadav, b'shvachot u'vizmerot, negadel lecha v'namlichecha, malkeinu yachid hei ha'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, melech mechulal b'tishbachot. And I look to Rania and George to lead us on page 108.
Always I will extol you, my sovereign God.
And praise your name forever.
Beginning each day with praise.
I will extol your
will
name forever.
forever.
Cause us to see your greatness is beyond us.
Eternal One, forever to be
Forever.
praised.
Declaring your works to each generation.
And bear
We
witness
bear witness
to your mighty acts.
Even as they speak of your splendor,
So I will meditate on your wonderful deeds.
for as they tell of your awesome mights.
So I will recount your greatness.
Great is your goodness, which they celebrate.
And they sing of your righteousness.
Holding us in your grace and compassion.
You are patient
You are
and abounding in love.
In your goodness, eternal God.
You have mercy
You have
on all your creatures.
Joyfully your works shall thank you.
And your faithful ones shall praise you.
shall praise.
Knowing how great is your majesty.
They proclaim your might.
Let all humanity perceive your power.
And the glorious of your redemption.
Redemption.
Mighty is your rule and everlasting.
Your reign endures in all generations.
All generations.
O God, you support the falling.
And raise up all who are bowed down.
Pleading, all look in hope to you.
And you give them their food in the due seasons.
Quietly you open your hand.
And satisfy the
needs of every living creature.
Righteous are you in all your ways.
And loving in all your deeds.
So near are you to all who call upon you.
To all who call upon you in truth.
The desire of those who revere you, you fulfill.
You hear their cry and help them.
Uneasingly our lips shall sing God's praise. So may all creatures laud God's holy name forever. Thank you. Please stand.
האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ כי לך נא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו שיר ושפחה הלל וזמרה ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם ברוך אתה אדוני הבוקר בשירי זמרה.
We turn to page 135.
Nine, 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 nine.
seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzei or vorei choshech, osei shalom uvorei et hakol, hame'el haaretz veladarim alea barachamim uvtuvo machadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chochma asita, mal'a haaretz kinyanecha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, va'al me'orei or she'asita yifarucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, yotzei hamorot. Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching. Make us faithful to your commandments, and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summoned us to serve you and proclaim your unity. Baruch atah Adonai, haboher ba'amo Yisrael be'ahava. Please stand or sit as your custom. I never learned the custom with starting with so much on Zoom. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל והיו הדברים האלה אשר אני מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך ושרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Please be seated.
תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, הייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם באמת.
אמת ויציב וישר וקיים וטוב ויפה הדבר הזה עלינו לעולם ועד. אמת שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, מלכנו מלך אבותינו, יוצרנו צור ישועתנו, פודנו ומצילנו מעולם הוא שמך, אין אלוהים זולתך. אמת אתה הוא ראשון ואתה הוא אחרון, ומבלעדיך אין לנו מושיע. ממצרים גאלתנו אדוני אלוהינו, ומבית עבדים פדיתנו. משה ומרים ובני ישראל לך אנו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם.
כמוך בעלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש נורא תהילות עושה
Please stand. Anananananana Adonai. Ananananana Sefavtai Tiftah. Ananananana Ufi Agid. Ufi Agid Tehilatecha. Ananananana Adonai. Ananananana Sefavtai Tiftah. Ananananana Ufi Agid. Ufi Agid Tehilatecha. Ananananana Adonai. Ananananana Sefavtai Tiftah. Ananananana Ufi Agid. Ufi Agid Tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konech Hakol v'Zochech Hasdei Avot v'Imaot ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר מושיע מגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ויצרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל מכלכל חיים בחסד בחיי מתים ברחמים רבים תומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים וקיים אמונתו משני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדשים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, אלוהים הארץ כבודו. כבודו מלא עולם. ברוך כבוד אדוני. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך. לדור ודור נגיד לך לדור ודור נגיד לך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד לדור ודור נגיד לך לדור ודור נגיד לך ברוך אתה אדוני Janet, I wonder if I can invite you up to come and read at the bottom of 142 for us. Thank you so much. That's right.
You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day for your service. When upon its coming we pause to contemplate our life, we learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by that spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day and for the opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and for its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts this message of holiness and consecrate all our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful, and good.
Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Ratzei Adonai Eloheinu bi'amcha Yisrael, utfilatam b'yahava tekabel utehi l'ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha b'yira na'avod. Modim anachnu lach, she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu le'olam va'ed. Tzur chayenu, magen yishenu, atah hu לדור ודור. נודה לך ונספר תהילתך על חיינו המסורים בידיך ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו ועל נפלותיך וטובותיך שבכל עת ערב ובוקר וצהריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, שמך ולך נאה להודות. Sim shalom tov uvracha. Sim shalom tov uvracha. Chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu. V'yavol Yisrael amecha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Archeinu avinu kolanu ke'echad b'panecha. Ki mi'od amecha natat lanu Adonai Eloheinu. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom Torah uvracha.
חסד וצדקה וברכה, רחמים וחיים ושלום. שים שלום טובה וברכה, שים שלום טובה וברכה, וטוב בדרך לברך את עמך ישראל ברחמים, וכל עת וכל שעה בשלומך. שים שלום טובה וברכה, שים שלום טובה וברכה. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום.
We'll continue with some quiet prayers and meditations. We turn now to the Torah service on page 481. Those eagle-eyed among you will notice that we don't have the scroll today, but we do still have Torah. So we will imagine us lifting the scroll out of the table, I suppose, until we have a scroll and an ark. So 481. What's that? Exactly, yes. You're not. Which way are we leaning? Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Gadol Shemo. Gadlu Adonai iti, uneromema Shemo yachdav. Please be seated. It was maybe mean of me to ask you to stand, as mostly we're standing because the scroll's standing. So when the scroll stands, we stand. When the scroll sits, we sit. So, but thank you for going along with it anyway. So this week we are reading a section from Parashat Ki Tavo. We're reading from Deuteronomy 27 verses 1 to 10. And once again, Deuteronomy, there's a lot of repetition of things that we've heard before in Torah. And in this week's parasha, the Israelites are instructed to bring the first fruits of that bountiful harvest that they will experience in the land of Israel. They'll bring them to God in thanks for that harvest. They're also reminded that 10% of the crops should be left for the stranger, the orphan, the widow, and the Levites. In the section we're about to read, the Israelites are told to carve the words of Torah onto large rocks, which are to be displayed for all to see as they enter the land. And we'll talk a little bit more about those rocks later. There's then a series of blessings that the Israelites are told will come to them if they keep the covenant, and curses that will befall them if they don't. We've heard that before too. These blessings and curses are given by the Levites and the elders who stand in a valley between two mountains, with the Israelites atop each of the mountains listening on either side. And seeing this image, I wonder if it could be that, like Moses standing atop of Mount Nebo, the Israelites are given the opportunity to look into the land on top of their mountains, so that this time the land being promised to them as God's side of the covenant is not just a concept. Having followed in faith until this point, the Israelites can see the land and make their commitment to the covenant with it before them. Finally, in case seeing the land is not enough, Moses reminds the Israelites of the miracles they witnessed in the wilderness and commands them to observe the covenant, which will bring them success if they do. And so to celebrate Maureen joining us back on Saturday, it's lovely to have you here, Maureen. I'm going to invite you up to read the blessings, and then you'll read English for us afterwards. Come on up. So everyone can hear you up here, that's fine. And because we like to see you.
Sorry?
And because we like to see you up here.
Baruch atah Adonai hamavorach. Oh, sorry.
No, you're okay.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai hamavorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'chavanu b'kol ha'amin nalatan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen.
Amen.
I'll give you this back. I'm going to do the Hebrew
Oh, yeah,
first.
please.
ויצב משה וזכני ישראל את העם לאמור, שמעו את כל המצווה אשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם היום. והיה ביום אשר תעברו את הירדן אל הארץ אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך, והקימותה לך אבנים גדולות, וסדת אותם בסיד. וכתבת עליהן את כל דברי התורה הזאת בעברך למען אשר תבוא אל הארץ אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך, ארץ זבת חלב ודבש, אשר דיבר אדוני אלוהי אבותיך לך. והיה בעברכם את הירדן, תקימו את האבנים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווה אתכם היום, בהר עיבל, וסדתה אותם בסיד. ובנית שם מזבח לאדוני אלוהיך, מזבח אבנים לא תניף עליהם ברזל אבנים שלמות תבנה את מזבח אדוני אלוהיך, ועלית עליו עולות לאדוני אלוהיך, וזבחת שלמים, ואכלת שם, ושמחת לפני אדוני אלוהיך, וכתבת על האבנים את כל דברי התורה הזאת באר היטב. ודבר משה והכהנים והלוויים אל כל ישראל לאמור. הסכת ושמע ישראל היום הזה, נחיית לעם לאדוני אלוהיך, ושמעת בקול אדוני אלוהיך, ועשית את מצוותיו ואת חוקיו, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום.
This should be easier than. Moses and the elders of Israel charged the people, saying, "Observe all the instructions that I enjoined upon you this day. As soon as you have crossed the Jordan into the land that your God had given you, you shall set up large stones, coat them with plaster, and inscribe upon them all the words of this teaching. When you cross over to enter the land that your God is giving you, a land flowing with milk and honey, the God of your ancestors promised you. Upon crossing the Jordan, you shall set up these stones, about which I charge you this day on Mount Ebal, and coat them with plaster. There too you shall build an altar to your God, an altar of stones. Do not wield an iron tool over them. You must build the altar of your God of whole stones. You shall offer on it burnt offerings to your God, and you shall sacrifice their offerings of well-being and eat them, rejoicing before your God. And on those stones you shall inscribe every word of this teaching most distinctly. Moses and the Levitical priests spoke to all Israel, saying, "Silence, hear, O Israel, today you have become the people of your God. Heed your God and observe the divine commandments and laws which I enjoin upon you this day." Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah bayom olam noten batochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten batorah.
Amen. Shakoyach. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So
Should I take this one?
Adrian will come up, and Hannah's up ready for Hagbah, which Kevin's very glad that we don't have today. And Adrian's reading the Haftarah in honor of Lindsay's mother's yahrzeit.
We only let Kevin do Hagba when we don't have the scroll.
And were you going to say some words about it? Would you like
First of all, I wanted to say the Israelites have just made me think the Israelites standing on top of the mountains. It was, I mean, one of the things is the psychological ploy, because when the spies went out and came back with reports that they were giants and we were like grasshoppers to these giants. And it's a great psychological ploy to stand on top of a mountain and feel enormous and look at the land below and think, they're grasshoppers, we're giants.
That's amazing. Yes, the next time they see the land, or the next time that a generation sees the land, they're much higher.
They're much higher.
That's
it's
very
psychological.
wise.
Yeah,
Thanks,
yeah, something that occurred to me. All I was going to say is, as Rabbi Anna promised, there's more about the stones. So that's all I'm going to say about the introduction to. I'll be reading from Joshua, chapter 4, verses 1 to 14. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nbi'im tovim, v'ratzah v'divreihem hane'emarim ba'emet. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher b'torah, u'v'moshe avdo, v'yisrael amo, b'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. When the entire nation had finished crossing the Jordan, God said to Joshua, "Select 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and instruct them as follows. Pick up 12 stones from the spot exactly in the middle of the Jordan, where the priest's feet are standing. Take them along with you and deposit them in the place where you will spend the night." Joshua summoned the 12 men who he had designated amongst the Israelites, one from each tribe. And Joshua said to them, "Walk up to the ark of Adonai your God in the middle of the Jordan. and each of you lift a stone onto his shoulder, corresponding to the number of the tribes of Israel. This shall serve as a symbol among you in time to come when your children ask, "What is the meaning of these stones for you?" You shall tell them, "The waters of the Jordan were cut off because of the ark of God's covenant. When it passed through the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off." And so these stones shall serve the people of Israel as a memorial for all time. The Israelites did as Joshua ordered. They picked up 12 stones corresponding to the number of the tribes of Israel from the middle of the Jordan, as God had charged Joshua, and they took them along with them to their night encampment and deposited them there. Joshua also set up 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan at the spot where the feet of the priests bearing the Ark of the Covenant had stood, and they have remained there to this day. The priests who bore the Ark remained standing in the middle of the Jordan until all the instructions that God had ordered Joshua to convey to the people had been carried out. And so the people speedily crossed over, just as Moses had assured Joshua in his charge to him. And when all the people finished crossing, the Ark of Adonai and the priests advanced to the head of the people. The Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh went across armed in the van of the Israelites, as Moses had charged them. About 40,000 shock troops went across at the distance Adonai to the steps of Jericho for battle. On that day, Adonai exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, so that they revered him all his days as they had revered Moses. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, sur kol ha'olamim, sadiq b'chol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer v'oseh, ha'medaber u'mekayim, shechol devarav emet b'tzedek. Al ha'torah, v'al ha'avodah, v'al ha'neviim, v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, likdusha v'limnucha, l'chavod ולתפארת על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen.
Amen.
Please stand. We're over on page 484, but I believe there's an external sheet for the new prayer for the state.
Yeah, this is the new prayer, and this is the first time I'm actually saying these words. Very strange it'll seem. Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our monarch, King Charles III, and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Excuse me. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity.
Amen. Thank you, Lizzie. I believe we have Aoife for the blessing of the community, and I wonder if you'd be able to pause at the end of the page for a moment to share names of healing and then come back at the top of 485.
Yep, can do.
Thank you.
Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and its members, and all who enter this virtual and real synagogue to meet, to study, and to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us and heal those in anxiety or pain.
We'll take a moment if anyone's thinking of someone at this time who's unwell, and please do say their name out loud or in your hearts. I'll look first to the room and then we'll look to Zoom.
We should be thinking of Michelle Singer.
Michelle Singer.
My cousin Nikki and our friend Lila.
Nikki and Lila.
I'm thinking of Stephen because he said you had COVID earlier on in the week.
Stephen.
I'll do better.
Our close friend, a member of the synagogue, Jack Leon.
Jacqueline and Janet for your hand saving. And Brenda Hunt.
And you, Janet, as well.
Yes, of course. And I look to Zoom if there's anyone on Zoom that would like to share a name.
My brother Ashley.
Ashley. And David.
I just wanted to wish Mark Ariel well as well. He's recovered or recovering from COVID. So all the best to you, Mark.
Thanks.
For all of those people, we wish them a refuah shleima, a complete healing. Aoife.
May we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rule soon be freed, and may we all unite to witness to your truth and do your will.
Amen.
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbours, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem.
Amen. Thank you. We turn over to page 489. Ki lekach tov natati lachem, Torati al ta'azovu. And my apologies, I skipped forward. I'm happy if we want to go back to it. You've had to. Please be seated. The first line is much nicer sung. I'm glad we got to hear that song as well. After being open for just a few hours, the queue for the public to pay their respects to the Queen's coffin quickly grew to more than 2 miles. Within a few more hours, the queue became just short of 5 miles long. At that stage, the authorities had to close the queue for 7 hours before opening it again, warning those coming to join it that they would be waiting for a further 24 hours and facing a cold night. The Guardian reported the queue as the most British thing to ever happen, highlighting the gentle humour people are sharing about it. And in fact, one of Mary and George's sons quipped on Facebook, the queue has now become a tourist attraction. The end of the queue to see the queue is currently at Westminster Hall. From the moment it opened, any one of us could have switched on the TV, opened YouTube, scrolled through Twitter, or followed news notifications for live queue updates, showing where the queue ends and interviewing those standing in it. Thousands upon thousands of people have been compelled to stand for long periods of time to have their chance of 30 seconds with the late monarch. As the queue took on a life of its own, I was puzzled as to what drew people to join. For many, it is grief. For others, the feeling of being part of a moment of history. And for some, both. Whatever the presented reason, I cannot help but wonder if the true reason for queuing is that it gives people something to do, something physical to help them feel anchored. In her best-selling memoir, Untamed, Glennon Doyle writes about the touch tree that survivalists use when they're in the forest. She explains how a survivalist will choose a tree that acts as a spot for them to return to once they've foraged, gathered, and explored. That tree acts as the person's compass or anchor. In her words, she tells readers, "I've spent much of my life lost in the woods of pain, relationship, religion, career, service, success, and failure. Looking back on those times, I can trace my lostness back to a decision to make something outside of myself my touch tree. An identity, a set of beliefs, an institution, aspirational ideas, a job, another person, a list of rules, approval, an old version of myself. Now, when I feel lost, I remember that I am not the woods, I am my own tree." This implication that we are our own compasses is not a rejection of the need for community or ritual or connection, but rather a reminder that all those things act as a support while the individual goes through their own process. As Jews, when a person dies, we most commonly expect for that person to be buried within a day or two. The mourning rituals are designed to help mourners. The early funeral allows for a finality, a type of closure. The Shiva gives the mourners time and space to be home, to not move, and to be brought food and company. Between Maimonides and the Shulchan Aruch, guidance is created to ensure that those visiting a mourner do not outstay their welcome or create a situation where the mourner needs to engage in regular day-to-day conversation. With each period of mourning, those in mourning are given the opportunity to be carried through and find their way from the deep depths of initial grief where normal life cannot continue to a time where the pain of loss does not go away, but the routines of life are able to return. From burial to Shiva to the 30 days and the stone setting at the end of the year, the rituals of each period of time acting to ease a mourner back to themselves and back to the day-to-day. In his rabbinic thesis, my classmate, Rabbi Elliot Karstadt, writes an alternative interpretation to the Jewish funeral liturgy, particularly the prayer for which it is named after, Tziduk Hadin. That prayer, if taken at face value, can be interpreted as a message that death is judgment. However, Rabbi Karstadt's interpretation offers a different reading, highlighting God not as Din, as judge, but as the prayer repeats throughout, Hatsur, the rock. As our dissertations were delayed due to the onset of the pandemic, he writes a preface, part of which says the following: "The significance in this time of having a rock that remains firm has not been to reinforce the justice of death or the judgment of life that it may imply. Rather, I have chosen to focus on the idea that from God we might draw strength to hold on to steady ourselves. In times of great change, of grief, of uncertainty, we look for that rock that can help steady us through." In this section of this week's parashah, and we heard again in the Haftarah, The Israelites are instructed to erect these physical rocks with the words of Torah etched upon them. These rocks become the home for the altar upon which the Israelites are to make sacrifices to God. And as the Israelites enter this much anticipated new land where they're faced with war and they've just lost their leader, God's command that physical reminders are to be placed in a spot which must be regularly returned to. Not just the rocks, but also the words of Torah written upon them, the connection to the story that Israelites and their ancestors have endured, and the journey they have traveled together become physical anchors that help to steady the Israelites in this time of uncertainty. The last few years have been times of great change and uncertainty. Many people, both here in the UK and around the world, feel a great loss upon the death of the Queen. And for countless more, it is yet another moment of change and instability. In the absence of physical rocks to return to, or even mourning rituals to steady society through the 10 days before the Queen is buried, those affected by instability and grief are led to need something to do, somewhere to go to steady themselves during this time. And so the prolific queue becomes that anchor, the thousands of people in it holding each other through the time of uncertainty, sharing in this moment of history like the words of Torah carved on the rocks in Israel. Queue begins to tell a story of people in it, connecting them to a time past and hold them in the present. As we move through this season of returning to ourselves, with Sichot tonight loudly announcing the ever nearing arrival of Rosh Hashanah, let us, an image of those towering rocks of Torah, the togetherness of community and the rituals of the festival, be our anchor in a time of social unrest and personal searching, holding us all through that process together. Shabbat Shalom.
We sang this last week, but it was popular and also still appropriate for Elul, so we're going to sing it again now.
Adonai, Oseh Shamayim va'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai, Oseh Shamayim va'aretz. Achat shalti me'et Adonai, otakesh. Achat shalti me'et Adonai, Otavakesh, Shifti b'veit Adonai, Kol yamei chayai, L'chazot b'noam Adonai, U'levaker b'heichalo, L'chazot b'noam Adonai, U'levaker b'heichalo. Achat shalti me'et Adonai, otavakesh. Achat shalti me'et Adonai, otavakesh. Shifti b'veit Adonai, Kol yamei chayai. L'chazot b'noam Adonai, U'levaker b'heichalo. L'chazot b'noam
Please stand for the Elena on page 520. עלינו לדבר לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו לאחד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו. ואנחנו קוראים, משתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומשב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים, הוא אלוהינו עינות, אמת מלכנו וגדולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום בחשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחתינו. Let's read together. Trusting in you, eternal God, hope soon to behold the glory of your false gods will vanish from our hearts and idolatry cease forever. Help us to perfect the world by bringing it under your challenge rule, when all will invoke your name, relinquish evil, and turn to you alone. May all who dwell on earth come to know that to you every knee must bend and every tongue swear loyalty. Before you let them humble themselves, and to your glorious name let them give honor. Let all submit to your sovereign rule. May that time come soon and last forever. For ultimate sovereignty is yours, and to all eternity you will reign in glory. As it is written, the Eternal One shall reign forever. As we worship before you, O God, we think of those who once shared with us the joys and burdens of life and who are no longer in our midst. The sorrow of bereavement is softened by the bond of love which continues to unite us with our dear ones and by our cherished memories of them, which we will always carry in our hearts. May all that was good in our lives remain with us as an influence for good. May all that was good in their lives remain with us as an influence for good. O God, grant consolation to those who are put in sorrow and light to those in darkness. Teach us at all times to put our trust in you and to praise your name. As a community, we are remembering Esme Cash, mother of Lindsay Cohen, Stella Gilroy, mother of Jane Lesser, Clara Heller, friend of the community, and Frances Shulton, the sister of Brian Haberfeld. And if anyone else is thinking of someone at this time, once again, I'll look to the room and then I'll look to Zoom. And please do share their name out loud or in your heart.
Parker.
Parker. There's been two. Fred Sonnenberg and David Pearson. Yes, two deaths in the community this week. That's right. The funeral for Fred is on Tuesday, and for David, they will be in the coming weeks. Then having a traditional Jewish ceremony. Will want the community involved. David Pearson, right? Yes. So that's that. His will be in a couple of weeks' time, but we'll inform you as we know. Look to the. I also remember my friend Lisa McCullough. And we're on page 524. Let's read together. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yamad ivrach irutei v'yelich machutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agav v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach leolam ulalmei alma, yitbarach v'yishtabach yitpa'ah v'yitnaman v'yitnaseh, v'yithada v'yithalei al shemei tusha b'rechu. Le'ela min kol bechata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, yamiran yama v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Yehei shalom b'mromav, hu shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol b'nei adam v'imru amen. Please be seated.
I also like to wish Lindsay happy memories, long life and strength. I do remember your mother when I first joined community 25 years ago, give me such a warm welcome. Or maybe part of why I'm still here, who knows. She's got a bit to answer for. Thank you, Anna. What a heartwarming service. This is kind of quite difficult times in more ways than one, but coming here and your words and perspective with what's happening in the queue. I was actually in the West End and I saw the queue. Amazing thing. Everyone was so happy, they were cold and not moving, but somehow there's some spirit amongst the group. It was amazing. Okay, a few more thank yous. The choir, Christine and Joseph, of course, but I know we had to Christine everywhere. It was absolutely wonderful. That anthem after school, that hit a nerve, it really did. But the harmony was so beautiful, but throughout it's really have enhanced what has been a wonderful service. And Tim, behind the scenes, it's been no glitches, unseen, unheard, but without Tim, really, that's helped keep. And then the connection with Stephen behind the scenes, sort of at home. We are going to try it where there'll be nobody at home running the Zoom. I'm sort of going to have them for the High Holy Days, but for now it's good to have someone at home to do the screen share section. But thank you, Stephen. Without you, I'll be pressing buttons, and to be honest, I prefer being hands-free. So thank you, Stephen, for that. There is quite a few announcements. Okay, first one with Kiddish. The Kiddish is actually going to be in here. There is a reform service going on in the same building, so Zoomers can actually join us this time for the Kiddish. Well, virtually join us. Right, Slichot, I hope I've got this right. Abdullah, is it o'clock?
8:15.
8:15, sorry, Abdullah, 8:15. And then at 8:30 there's a concert for an hour, is that right, Joseph?
Yeah, so me, Chessie Wiener, who's the director of the Reform, and also a guest, Isaac Montague, who's an oud and Sephardi song performer. So we've done a really nice programme here, we worked on it, so I think it'd be really nice. So please do come if you possibly can.
And then I believe a service will follow that. It could be a late night.
About 9:45, the Liberal service will be
Yes.
for about an hour.
Yeah, sorry, I should have said at the Scout Hut. Many apologies for those on Zoom. We did try to get
We
it.
figured it out. It's going to be on Zoom.
Oh, is it?
And you don't have to worry about it.
Oh, phew. It is. Has it been?
Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful for that because some.
A Zoom link went out in the email yesterday afternoon.
Okay.
Separate email.
There was a separate.
I missed that one. Okay, well that is good. I'm quite. Oh, I'm really
Become
pleased
in
about
person
that.
if you can, because the sound won't be as good as this, because we're kind of doing it in a basic way. So be better in person.
Okay.
Probably not. I doubt it. I don't know if it's going to be streamed.
discussion about recording rights, wasn't there?
Yeah.
If you'd like to organise it, that'd be great. But I don't know how. We don't.
We'll figure it out. I could record Zoom, but like Joseph said, the sound won't be.
If we might record the Zoom, but it won't be great.
Nearly done. Okay, the Reform are waiting for us, but High Holy Days. Anything? Well, Sunday week, isn't it? The rugby club. So, Alan, do you want to? Because it should be an alcohol.
Yeah, the details of all the High Holiday services are in the current Kahila, page 10. So it's all their times and confirming that it's going to take place at the Rugby Club in Stanmore. And in case anybody wondered, we're not giving out tickets this year, so all will be welcome. Bring family and friends.
Pets.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but still. So that's in Kahila. And also in the current LJ today, the September-October edition of that, which is online. I mention it because there is an article about our own synagogue on page 6, which some people might be interested to read. You can see it online by going to the Liberal Judaism website and finding it there, but we will have copies, hard copies of the magazine on Rosh Hashanah morning for anybody who wants to pick one up.
Yeah, okay. And we're at the big club next Shabbat, Andrew Steen. Okay, join us for full.
So this is amazing. We're going to have an even more raucous closing as we're joined by the Reform community, and we're Adon Olam Hashem Allah B'terem Kol Yitzivna Ein Masol V'Chefsol Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'Yachaveh Tivot V'Kol Levado Yimdok Nora V'Hu Hoya V'Hu Hoven V'Hu Yihei V'Tifara V'Hu Echad V'Ein Sheni V'Ham Shelo Ha'Bira Li Reshit V'Li Tachlit V'Lo Ha'oz V'Hamizrah V'Hu Eli V'Chai Galim V'Tzohev Li V'Ein Tzara V'Hu Nisri U'Manosli V'Natosli V'Yom Ekah V'Yadu Avkiruchi V'Tishon V'Ahira V'Yiruchi Gaviyati V'Adonai V'Lo Ira. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Let's do Kiddush.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Be safe.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom from George and Mary.
Shabbat Shalom. George.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Thank you, Stephen. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Camera's got Shabbat Shalom. Oh, the camera there.
So people can see you. So over here, so they can, the microphones here.
We hope everyone has a glass and some challah as well. The challah is hiding in a little bag, so
It's so it doesn't hear us do the blessing on
Yes.
the wine before the.
yes, and I hope that our Reform friends are still there on. It's fantastic. So they're now mobile and online, which is amazing. So, shall we?
Shamru b'nei Israel Shabbat Shabbat Dor Tola Beini uvein b'nei Israel Oti le'olam Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. Delicious. All hold our bread a lot.
Yes. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam,
המוציא לחם מן הארץ. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
B'tei Avon, there's some Kiddushi things around there. Shabbat shalom, everyone on Zoom.
Yes.
And on Zoom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
That's one everyone.
Cool.
We've all forgotten what we do in shul, you know?
Yeah, and then
It's sort of float a bit.
yeah, and normally, Stefan is there about
I'm going to end the meeting now. Thank you, everyone.
Add more and more stress in the building.
Have a good week.